The starship Aurora drifted through empty space, far from Earth and everything its crew had ever known. Captain David Chen stood at the observation window and watched the stars. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. They had traveled for 3 years to reach this point. They were the first humans to leave their own solar system. "Captain," said Lieutenant Sarah Kim, her voice shaking slightly, "we are picking up something strange on our sensors." Chen turned around. "What is it?" "Ships, sir. Hundreds of them. They are surrounding us." The crew froze. They had always wondered if other life existed in the universe. Now they had their answer. The ships were massive, beautiful, and completely alien. They hung in space like silver flowers, their hulls covered in patterns that seemed to glow with inner light. A message came through their communication system. It was not in any human language, but somehow they understood it perfectly. The words appeared directly in their minds. "Welcome, young ones. We have waited long for you to take your first steps into the greater dark. Do not be afraid. We mean you no harm." This was humanity's first contact with the Galactic Concord. The Concord was ancient beyond human understanding. 12 species had built it over 3 million years. They had mapped every star, catalogued every planet, and watched countless younger races rise and fall. They were patient, they were wise, they were powerful beyond measure, and they welcomed humanity with open arms. The months that followed were filled with wonder. Concord ambassadors came to Earth. They brought gifts of technology, medicine, and knowledge. Diseases that had killed millions were cured overnight. Clean energy ended the wars over resources. Humanity looked up at the stars and saw not empty darkness but a community waiting for them. The Concord offered humans a place among them, a junior seat on the Great Council, a chance to learn and grow under the guidance of older, wiser species. Earth said yes. For 50 years, humanity spread across the stars. They built colonies on 100 worlds. They traded with alien merchants. They sent their children to study at ancient universities on planets older than Earth's sun. Human art and music became popular across the galaxy. The elder races found something charming about these newcomers. Humans were emotional, passionate, and creative in ways that older species had forgotten. Ambassador Yuki Tanaka represented humanity on the Concord Council. She was young for a diplomat, only 42, with sharp eyes and a quick smile. She had spent 20 years learning the ways of galactic politics. She believed in the Concord's mission of peace and cooperation. She did not know that the elder races were growing afraid. High Counselor Vorath of the Veth Dominion called a secret meeting. The Veth were one of the founding species of the Concord. They had ruled their section of the galaxy for 2 million years. They were tall, thin beings with gray skin and large black eyes. They moved slowly and thought even slower. Patience was their greatest virtue, but even their patience had limits. The humans breed too quickly. Vorath said to the gathered council members. Only the senior species were present. Humanity's representative had not been invited. In 50 years, their population has grown from 8 billion to 11 billion, and they have spread to over 100 worlds. "They are enthusiastic," said Counselor Mreth of the Solari Collective. "It is not a crime. Today it is enthusiasm. Tomorrow it will be ambition." Vorath pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared. It showed population projections. In 500 years, humans will outnumber every other species in the Concord combined. In 1,000 years, they will control more worlds than all of us together. The council members shifted uncomfortably. "They adapt too quickly," Vorath continued. "They learn our technology and improve it. They study our cultures and find our weaknesses. They smile and laugh and make friends everywhere they go. They are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered." "What do you suggest?" asked Counselor Thren of the Meridian Hegemony. Vorath was silent for a long moment. "Controlled extinction." The words hung in the air. Several counselors looked away. Others nodded slowly. "We have done it before," Vorath said. "The Kreth, the Morvani, the Hollow Ones. Young species that grew too fast, too hungry. We removed them for the good of all. The humans are no different. They have done nothing wrong," Mreth protested. "Not yet. But they will. It is their nature. Better to act now, while they are still weak, than to wait until they are strong enough to fight back." The debate lasted for 3 days. In the end, they voted. 10 species voted for extinction, 2 voted against. The decision was made. The Concord scientists created a bioweapon. It was elegant and terrible. It targeted human DNA specifically. It spread through air, water, and touch. It killed within hours. There was no cure. They released it on a Tuesday. Ambassador Tanaka was attending a cultural festival on the Veth homeworld when her communication device began screaming with emergency alerts. She excused herself and stepped into a private room to answer. Her assistant's face appeared on the screen. He was crying. "Ambassador, something is happening. People are dying. Everywhere. Earth. The colonies. The stations. Everyone is getting sick, and they are dying so fast." Tanaka felt her blood turn to ice. "What do you mean, everyone?" "Billions, Ambassador. Billions of people. The hospitals are overwhelmed. The bodies." He broke down completely. Tanaka ran to find Counselor Voreth. She found him in his private garden, calmly trimming a flowering plant. "What have you done?" she demanded. Voreth did not look at her. "What was necessary?" "Necessary? You are killing my people. Billions of innocent people. Your species grew too fast, Ambassador. You were becoming a threat." The Concord decided to act before it was too late. Tanaka could not breathe. "We trusted you. We believed in you. We thought you were our friends." Voreth finally turned to face her. His large black eyes showed no emotion. "We are not friends. We are rulers. And rulers must sometimes make difficult choices for the good of all. This is genocide. This is survival." Within 72 hours, 11 billion humans were dead. Earth's great cities became mass graves. Colony worlds fell silent. Ships drifted empty through space. Their crews gone. The screams stopped. The prayers stopped. Everything stopped. The Concord issued a public statement. They expressed deep regret over the tragic plague that had struck humanity. They called it a natural disaster, a terrible accident of biology. They offered to help the surviving humans relocate to a small reservation world where they could live out their days in peace. Fewer than 2 million humans survived. Scattered deep space crews who had been too far from contaminated areas. Research stations hidden in remote locations. A few underground bunkers that had sealed themselves in time. They listened to the Concord's lies. They watched the galaxy mourn their dead with fake tears. They heard the elder races whisper that perhaps it was for the best. And then, together, they made a decision. They went silent. They stopped answering calls. They vanished into the darkness between stars. The Concord assumed humanity had accepted its fate. The elder races felt a moment of guilt, then relief, then nothing at all. They returned to their ancient routines. They forgot about the humans. This was their greatest mistake, because humanity had not given up. Humanity had not accepted anything. In the cold darkness of space, in hidden places the Concord did not know existed, the survivors gathered, and they began to plan. 30 years passed in silence. The galaxy moved on. The Concord continued its ancient work of managing 1,000 star systems and 1 trillion lives. Trade ships crossed the void. Diplomats argued over borders. Scientists made discoveries. Children were born and elders died. Life continued as it always had. The humans were almost forgotten. Counselor Voreth retired from public service and spent his days in his garden. Sometimes he thought about the decision he had made. He did not regret it. He had done what was necessary. The humans had been a threat. Now they were not. It was simple. Other species remembered differently. The Solari Collective, who had voted against the extinction, withdrew from active council participation. They said little, but their silence spoke loudly. The Meridian hegemony increased their military spending, though they could not say exactly why. Something felt wrong. Something felt incomplete. On the reservation world, the surviving humans kept to themselves. Concord observers visited occasionally. They reported a sad, broken people. The humans had built small villages. They farmed, they raised children. They seemed to have accepted their fate. The observers felt pity for them. They did not look closely enough. Commander Yuki Tanaka, former ambassador, now leader of humanity's remnant, stood in an underground bunker far beneath the reservation's surface. The bunker stretched for kilometers in every direction. It held laboratories, factories, training facilities, and living quarters for thousands. The villagers on the surface were actors. The reservation was a stage. Everything the Concord saw was a performance designed to make them look away. "Status report," Tanaka said. General Marcus Cole stood beside her. He was one of the original survivors, a career military officer who had been commanding a deep space patrol when the plague struck. His wife and 3 children had died on Earth. He had not smiled in 30 years. "Fleet construction is ahead of schedule," he said. "We have completed 412 warships. All of them are equipped with the new drive systems." The new drive systems. That had been a gift from an unexpected source. 5 years after the genocide, a Solari scientist had secretly contacted the human survivors. She had been horrified by what her species had allowed to happen. She could not undo it, but she could help. She had given them everything: engine designs, weapon technology, shield frequencies, communication codes, the Concorde's entire defense network, explained in detail. She had been caught and executed 3 years later. The humans built a memorial for her in the deepest part of their bunker. They did not forget those who helped them. "What about personnel?" Tanaka asked. "Every human over the age of 16 has completed basic military training. Specialized units are ready. Intelligence operatives have been planted on 14 Concorde worlds." Tanaka nodded slowly. 30 years of preparation. 30 years of pretending to be broken while building an army in the shadows. 30 years of studying their enemies, learning their weaknesses, planning their destruction. It was almost time. Far across the galaxy, strange things began to happen. A Veth cargo ship vanished near the outer rim. It was not unusual for ships to disappear. Space was dangerous. Accidents happened. But this ship had been in a safe sector. Its last transmission had been cut off mid-sentence. 2 weeks later, another ship vanished. Then another. Then an entire convoy. The Veth Dominion sent a patrol fleet to investigate. The fleet found nothing. Empty space. No wreckage. No signals. No survivors. Then the patrol fleet vanished too. High Counselor Kren, who had replaced Vorath, demanded answers. Intelligence agencies began investigating. They found only shadows. Witnesses reported seeing ghost ships, vessels of unknown design that appeared without warning and disappeared just as quickly. "Perhaps pirates," suggested one analyst. "Pirates do not attack military patrols," Kren replied. "Pirates do not leave no trace." The disappearances continued. Ships, stations, outposts. They vanished one by one, always at the edges of Concorde space, always without explanation, and then the bodies began to appear. A Meridian freighter discovered a drifting Veth warship. Every crew member was dead. They had not been killed by weapons, fire, or disease. They had simply stopped living. Their faces were frozen in expressions of absolute terror. Written on the walls in the ship's cargo hold, in the Veth language, were 5 words: "We remember what you did." Panic spread through the Concorde. Emergency meetings were called. Security was increased. Intelligence agencies worked overtime. But they could find nothing. The enemy was invisible. In her bunker, Tanaka reviewed the reports from her field operatives. "The Veth are terrified," said Agent Lin. "Their military is searching everywhere. They have increased patrols by 300%. They are jumping at shadows." "Good," Tanaka said. "Let them be afraid. Fear makes people stupid." "The Meridians are more dangerous," Agent Chen warned. "General Kroth has taken command of their security forces. He is smart. He suspects the truth." "What has he done?" "He has requested permission to investigate the human reservation world." Tanaka smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Let him come. Let him see our sad little villages and our broken people. Let him look right at us and see nothing." General Cole stepped forward. "Commander, our forces are ready. We can begin whenever you give the order." Tanaka was silent for a long moment. She thought about her daughter, who had died on Earth at the age of 6. She thought about her husband, her parents, her friends, 11 billion people, murdered in their beds, in their homes, in their schools. Children, elders, innocent people who had never harmed anyone. The Concorde had called it necessary. They had called it survival. They had slept peacefully for 30 years while humanity planned in the darkness. "Not yet," she said finally. "We strike when I say. Not before. We have waited 30 years. We can wait a little longer. With respect, Commander, the troops are eager. They want justice." "Justice?" Tanaka turned to face him. Her eyes were cold. "This is not about justice, General. Justice is blind. Justice is fair. What we are planning is not fair. It is not proportional. It is not merciful." She paused. The Concord murdered our entire species and called it necessary. We are going to show them what necessary really means. We are going to break them so completely that the galaxy will remember for 1,000,000 years. We are going to make them understand the true cost of what they did. Cole nodded slowly. Vengeance, then. Vengeance. Absolute and total. Every species that voted for our extinction will pay. Every leader who approved it will die. Every world that celebrated it will burn. Tanaka's voice was calm, almost gentle. But we do it right. We do it perfectly. We get one chance at this. One chance to hurt them so badly they can never recover. I will not waste it. She turned back to the holographic display showing the galaxy. 12 species, thousands of worlds, trillions of lives. Continue the preparations, she ordered. When we are ready, truly ready, we will show the galaxy what happens when you try to murder humanity. The darkness between stars had hidden humanity for 30 years. Soon, that same darkness would carry their revenge across the galaxy. The Veth throne world of Varaxis Prime was the heart of an empire. For 2,000,000 years, it had stood as a symbol of power and stability. Its cities covered entire continents. Its orbital stations formed rings around the planet. Its defense fleet was the largest in the galaxy. 100,000 warships protected the homeworld of the species that had engineered humanity's extinction. On a quiet morning, as the twin suns rose over the capital city, the sky tore open. Human ships emerged from slipspace in perfect formation. There were 500 of them, a tiny fraction of the Veth defense fleet. But they were not supposed to be there. Human drives could not make the jump to Varaxis Prime. Human sensors could not bypass Veth security systems. Human weapons could not penetrate Veth shields. The Veth had believed this. They had been wrong. Admiral Sarah Chen commanded the attack from the Bridge of the Remembrance. She was 60 years old. Her entire family had died in the genocide. She had spent 3 decades preparing for this moment. All ships. Commence attack pattern Omega, she said calmly. Priority targets are the orbital defense platforms. Secondary targets are military installations. Civilian areas are not to be engaged unless fired upon. The Veth defense fleet scrambled to respond. They outnumbered the humans 200 to 1. They should have crushed the attackers in minutes. They did not. Human ships moved in ways Veth computers could not predict. Human weapons cut through shields that should have been impenetrable. Human tactics ignored every rule of space warfare the Veth had developed over millions of years. The first orbital platform exploded within 3 minutes. The second followed 30 seconds later. By the time an hour had passed, the orbital defense network was gone. High Counselor Kren watched from his palace as fires bloomed across the night sky. He could not understand what was happening. This was impossible. The humans were broken. The humans were contained. The humans had no fleet, no technology, no hope. His communication officer burst into the throne room. High Counselor, we are receiving a transmission. From the human ships. Put it through. A holographic image appeared. It showed a human female in a military uniform. Her hair was gray. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes burned with an intensity that made Kren step backward. High Counselor Kren of the Veth Dominion, the woman said. My name is Commander Yuki Tanaka. 30 years ago, your species voted to exterminate mine. You killed 11 billion people. You called it necessary. She paused. Her expression did not change. I am here to explain that you were wrong. The transmission ended. Kren tried to respond, to call for reinforcement, to order a counterattack, but his communication systems were dead. His power grid was failing. His military command structure had collapsed. Human infiltrators had been in place for years. Engineers, technicians, servants. They had watched, they had waited, and when the attack began, they had struck from within. The battle lasted 3 days. Human forces did not try to occupy Varaxis Prime. They did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They destroyed every military installation, every government building, every symbol of Veth power. They broadcast their attacks across the galactic network so every species could watch. On the 3rd day, Tanaka landed her shuttle in the ruins of the Imperial Palace. She walked through the rubble until she found Kren, hiding in a basement shelter. Please, Kren begged. I was not High Counselor when the decision was made. I did not vote. I had no part in it. Tanaka looked at him with something that might have been pity. You knew. You all knew. You could have stopped it. You could have warned us. You could have helped us. Instead, you watched 11 billion people die and did nothing. We were afraid. Your species was growing too fast. You would have taken everything. We wanted nothing but friendship. We admired you. We trusted you. My daughter used to watch videos about the Veth. She thought you were wonderful. Tanaka's voice cracked for just a moment. She was 6 years old when your bioweapon killed her. 6 years old. She had never hurt anyone. She had never threatened anyone. She just wanted to grow up and see the stars. Kren had no answer. There was no answer. I am not going to kill you, Tanaka said. I want you to live. I want you to watch what happens next. I want you to spend the rest of your days knowing that you could have prevented this. She turned and walked away. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. The Veth Dominion, one of the founding species of the Concord, had been humiliated. Their throne world burned. Their fleet was scattered. Their government had collapsed, and it had been done by humans. The broken species, the dead species, the species that should no longer have existed. Emergency council meetings were called. The remaining Concord species mobilized their fleets. They assembled the largest military force in galactic history. 3 million warships. Trillions of soldiers. Enough firepower to destroy 1,000 worlds. Counselor Thren of the Meridian Hegemony took command of the combined fleet. He was a veteran warrior, calm and experienced. He did not underestimate the humans. He had studied their tactics. He understood their determination. We will corner them, he announced to the assembled commanders. We will overwhelm them with numbers. They may be clever, but they cannot defeat the combined might of the Concord. General Kroth stood beside him. He had been the one to suspect the truth about humanity. He had warned the council. They had not listened. With respect, Counselor, Kroth said quietly. I do not think the humans intend to fight a conventional war. What do you mean? They struck Veraxis Prime not to conquer it but to humiliate it. They broadcast every moment. They want us to feel what they felt. They want us to know fear. Thren dismissed the concern. Fear is a weapon of the weak. We are not weak. He was wrong. The human fleet did not try to defeat the Concord Armada in open battle. Instead, they struck everywhere at once. Supply lines were cut. Communication stations were destroyed. Military bases were attacked and abandoned before reinforcements could arrive. The Concord fleet chased shadows across the galaxy. Every time they thought they had cornered the humans, they found empty space. Every time they left a system undefended, that system was attacked, and the broadcasts continued. Ambassador Chen Wei, Tanaka's chosen voice, appeared on every communication channel in the galaxy. You taught us what the galaxy truly is, Chen said. A place where the strong exterminate the weak. We were good students. We learned our lesson well. Now we are teaching it back to you. 3 more Concord species fell in 18 months. Not conquered, shattered. Their governments collapsed. Their militaries broke. Their populations fled. The humans did not take territory. They did not build an empire. They destroyed the old order and left chaos behind. The galaxy watched in terror. The humans had chosen vengeance over peace. And they were winning. General Kroth of the Meridian Hegemony sat alone in his command center, studying reports that made no sense. The humans should have been defeated months ago. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. They had no supply lines, no industrial base, no reinforcements. By every measure of military science, they should have been crushed. Instead, they were winning. Kroth had spent his entire life studying warfare. He had fought in a dozen conflicts. He had never seen anything like this. The humans did not fight the way civilized species fought. They did not seek territory. They did not negotiate. They did not follow any of the rules that had governed galactic conflict for millions of years. They fought like ghosts. They struck without warning and vanished before retaliation. They appeared in impossible places. They knew secrets they should not know, and everywhere they went, they left behind the same message. We remember what you did. His communication officer interrupted his thoughts. General, we have captured a human prisoner. Kroth looked up sharply. How? One of their raiding parties struck a supply depot on Meridian 7. Most escaped, but one was injured and left behind. She is being held in the detention center. Kroth stood immediately. In 3 years of war, This was the first human prisoner taken alive. Perhaps she could provide answers. The detention center was deep underground, protected by the best security the hegemony could provide. Croth passed through 7 checkpoints before reaching the cell where the human was held. She was young, perhaps 30 years old by human standards. Her left arm was wrapped in bandages. Her face was bruised, but her eyes were clear and calm as she watched Croth enter. "I am General Croth," he said. "I want to understand your people." The human laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Understand us? You killed 11 billion of us and you want to understand us? The decision was made before my time. I did not support it, but you did nothing to stop it. You watched our children die, and you did nothing." The human's voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Do you know what it felt like? To watch everyone you love, everyone you knew, die in hours? To hear their screams on the communication channels? To know that the species you had trusted had murdered them?" Croth had no answer. "My name is Lieutenant Maria Santos," the human continued. "I was 12 years old when your Concorde killed my family. My mother, my father, my 2 brothers, my grandmother who had survived 100 years of life. They died coughing blood on our kitchen floor while I hid in a sealed closet." She leaned forward. "I spent 18 years learning how to kill your kind. Every day, every hour. I studied your tactics. I memorized your weaknesses. I trained until I could fight in my sleep, and I am not special. Every human alive has the same story. Every human alive has the same rage. You cannot win," Croth said. "You must see that. Even if you defeat the Meridians, even if you defeat every fleet we send, you do not have the numbers to hold what you take. Eventually, you will be overwhelmed." Santos smiled. "You still do not understand. We are not trying to win. We are not trying to build an empire. We are not trying to replace you. Then what do you want? We want you to remember. Forever. We want the galaxy to know, for the next 1,000,000 years, what happens when you try to murder humanity. We want every species that ever considers genocide to think of us and tremble." She stood up, ignoring the pain from her wounded arm. "You cannot fight an enemy that does not fear death. You cannot negotiate with an enemy that wants nothing you can give. You cannot defeat an enemy that has already lost everything." Croth felt cold. "You are describing suicide. We are describing justice. Your kind defines justice as balance, as proportional response. Our kind defines it differently. You killed 11 billion of us. Not soldiers, not warriors, babies, children, old men and women who had never raised a hand against anyone. You killed them in their sleep." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "There is no proportional response to that. There is only punishment, absolute and eternal." "If we offered peace," Croth said slowly, "if we offered to surrender, to pay any price, would your people accept?" Santos was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know. I honestly do not know. The rage has become part of us. It is in our blood. Some of us want to burn everything. Some of us want to stop. I cannot tell you which side will win." She turned away from him. "But I can tell you this. Whatever we decide, you will accept, because you have no other choice." Croth returned to his command center with a heavy heart. He had hoped the prisoner would provide insight, strategy, weakness. Instead, she had shown him something worse. The humans were not fighting a war. They were conducting an execution. The entire Concorde was on trial, and the verdict had been decided 30 years ago when the first bioweapon was released. He began drafting a report to the remaining Concorde leadership. He chose his words carefully. "We are facing an enemy unlike any we have encountered," he wrote. "They do not seek victory in the traditional sense. They seek to break us psychologically, culturally, and spiritually. They want the galaxy to watch us fall. They want our descendants to live in shame." He paused, then added, "I recommend unconditional surrender, not because we cannot continue fighting, but because continuing to fight will only increase our losses. The humans have no interest in occupation or subjugation. They want punishment. If we accept punishment now, willingly, we may preserve something of our civilizations. If we resist, they will take everything." The report was sent. The response came quickly. "Surrender is unacceptable. The Concorde has never surrendered. The Concorde will never surrender. Continue the fight." Croth read the message twice. Then he deleted it and looked out at the stars. The Concorde was dying. The humans were killing it, not with fleets and armies, but with fear and shame. Species that had stood together for millions of years were turning on each other. Old alliances were breaking. Old hatreds were returning. The humans had found the weakness at the heart of the Concord. They had not tried to defeat it militarily. They had simply reminded every species of every wrong ever done, every betrayal ever committed, every crime ever forgiven. And the Concord was tearing itself apart. Kroth wondered if the humans had planned this from the beginning. He suspected they had. They had 30 years to study their enemies. They knew exactly where to push. He was afraid. Not of death, but of what would come after. The humans were building something new on the ashes of the old order. He did not know what it would look like. He only knew that his people would not decide. The message arrived on every communication channel in the galaxy at the same moment. It was simple and desperate. To humanity and Commander Yuki Tanaka, the remaining species of the Galactic Concord offer unconditional surrender. We will accept any terms. We will pay any price. We submit ourselves to your judgment. Tanaka received the message on the Bridge of the Remembrance. She was 72 years old now. Her hair had gone completely white. Her hands shook slightly when she was tired, but her mind was as sharp as ever. It is over, Admiral Chen said quietly. We won. Tanaka shook her head. Nothing is over. The hard part is just beginning. She called for a council of war. The surviving leadership of humanity gathered in the great hall of their hidden base. There were soldiers and scientists, engineers and farmers, old survivors and children who had been born in hiding. Perhaps 2 million humans remained in the universe. They had brought the mightiest civilization in galactic history to its knees. Now they had to decide what to do with it. The debate lasted for 3 days. General Marcus Cole spoke first. He was in his 80s now, still strong, still filled with the cold rage that had driven him for decades. We finish it. Complete destruction. Every species that voted for our extinction is wiped out. Every world that celebrated our death is burned. We give them exactly what they gave us. Many in the crowd shouted their agreement. 30 years of planning, 5 years of war, 11 billion dead. The desire for total revenge was overwhelming. Dr. Sarah Kim spoke next. She had been born in hiding, part of the generation that had never known Earth. If we destroy them, we become them. We prove they were right to fear us. We prove that we were always monsters. They made us monsters, Cole replied. They murdered our children. They laughed as our species died. They deserve nothing less. Deserve has nothing to do with it, Kim said. This is about who we are, who we choose to be. If we commit genocide in return, we lose everything that made us human in the first place. The debate went back and forth. Old grievances were aired, old wounds were reopened. People wept and shouted and demanded justice. Finally, Tanaka stood. The room fell silent. I have thought about this moment for 40 years, she said slowly. Since the day I watched my daughter die in my arms. Since the day I realized that everything we had believed about the galaxy was a lie. I have imagined burning their worlds. I have dreamed of making them feel what we felt. She paused, looking out at the faces of her people. But I have also thought about what comes after. We are 2 million people in a galaxy of trillions. Even if we destroy the Concord completely, we cannot rule what remains. Others will rise. Others will grow strong. And they will remember us. They will remember how humanity responded to genocide, with genocide. She took a breath. I do not want that to be our legacy. I do not want our children's children to inherit a galaxy that hates and fears them. I want them to inherit a galaxy that respects them, that knows what we are capable of, yes, but also knows that we chose something better. What do you propose? Cole asked. Selective justice. The species that voted for our extinction will face consequences. Their governments will be dismantled. Their militaries will be destroyed. Their leaders will stand trial for what they did. But their civilians will live. Their children will grow up. Their cultures will continue. Changed but not erased. She turned to face the entire assembly. The species that voted against our extinction, who tried to save us and were silenced, will be offered alliance, partnership. They will help us build something new. A galactic order based not on the rule of the strong over the weak, but on genuine cooperation. And if they refuse, someone called out, then we will be ready. We will always be ready. No one will ever catch humanity unprepared again. Tanaka's voice hardened. But I believe they will accept. They are tired of the old ways. They are afraid of what they have seen us do. They will welcome a new path. The vote was not unanimous. Many wanted complete destruction. But in the end, Tanaka's proposal won. Humanity had spent 30 years learning to be soldiers. Now they would learn to be rulers. The trials began 1 month later. Every surviving leader who had voted for humanity's extinction was brought before a tribunal. The evidence was presented. Testimonies were given. The galaxy watched as the architects of genocide faced judgment. Former High Counselor Vorath was among the first. He was ancient now, barely able to stand. He offered no defense. When asked if he had anything to say, he spoke only 4 words. I did what I believed. He was found guilty. He was executed. His death was broadcast across the galaxy. Others followed. Some begged for mercy. Some maintained their innocence. Some simply accepted their fate. All were judged by the same standard. General Croth of the Meridians was not among the condemned. He had spoken against the genocide when it mattered, though his voice had been ignored. He was offered a choice: join the new order or retire to obscurity. He chose to join. The Solari Collective, who had voted against extinction and paid a heavy price for their opposition, became humanity's first true allies. Their leader, an elderly female named Mreth, wept when she met Tanaka. I am sorry, Mreth said. I am so sorry we could not stop them. You tried, Tanaka replied. That is more than most. The new Galactic Council was formed. Humanity did not take the center seat. They took all the seats. Every major decision would require human approval. Every military action would need human oversight. The species that had tried to erase humanity would now live under their watch. 1 year after the surrender, a ceremony was held on Earth. The planet had been dead for decades, its cities crumbling, its fields overgrown. But humans had begun to return. They were clearing the ruins. They were planting new gardens. They were building monuments to the dead. Tanaka stood before the largest monument, a simple black wall that stretched for kilometers. On it were carved 11 billion names, every human who had died in the genocide. It would take a lifetime to read them all. Croth stood beside her. He had become something like an advisor, helping the humans understand the species they now ruled. What happens now? He asked. We rebuild. We remember. We make certain this never happens again. And if another young species rises, another threat to galactic stability, Tanaka looked at him. Her eyes were tired but clear. Then we welcome them. We teach them. We help them grow. And if they threaten us, we remind them what happened to the last civilization that underestimated humanity. The galaxy will never forget what you did here. Good. Tanaka turned back to the wall of names. That is the point. We did not want conquest. We did not want empire. We wanted the universe to understand that there are some lines that cannot be crossed, some crimes that cannot be forgiven, some species that will not go quietly into extinction. She reached out and touched one of the names carved into the stone. Her daughter's name. Small letters among billions. They called it necessary, she said softly. They called it survival. They thought they were protecting themselves from a threat. She stepped back. Her voice carried across the silent crowd. Mercy is the one thing they never showed us, and now they know what it looks like. The galaxy watched, and remembered, forever.